I'm starting to think maybe we should have a blooper reel. Sean just psyched me out by making me think we were recording. I was standing here dancing away, and I thought he had started off the video. Maybe we should. So, you know what, maybe watch out. I'm sure that we may one day come out with a bit of a blooper reel, and you see what I do in the downtime between boxes. Ooh. Whee. And yeah, there's a pile of stuff forming on the left. Oh. Cool. Okay. Ah. Oh, this box is trying to eat me. Let's start here. The Wicca Handbook by Eileen Holland. If I recall, what's a good way of saying this? I hate to call it an endorsement, but it's heavily endorsed by Raymond Buckland. It even says so on the front. Ooh. Her book, from everything that I've read, is very good. Being able to hold it in my hand now, it's funny because there's little tiny bits of some paper from the printing process that are falling out, but I'm really liking it actually. This may be one of those books people have to race me for. Again, though, we're seeing a lot of kind of higher magic ideals being brought in and made accessible to people who practice Wicca. So check it out. It'll deepen your magical practice. Now, this is one that I'm sure, again, I'm going to get some kind of flack about, because it is one of those kind of hot button topics. The Quran. Yes, I have a copy of the Quran. I have 2 different varieties in my home library. It is definitely worth a read. Now, from what I understand, this does things a little bit different than a lot of Qurans, where it puts it all into chronological order. I'd have to get in a lot more into the Quran and Islam in order to explain why that's important or why is that different. Suffice it to say, a good read, if you'd like to know more about Islam. Speaking of books which somebody's going to get mad at me about, Buffalo Woman Comes Singing, written by Brooke Medicine Eagle. And for those who want to get upset beforehand, there she is, Native American. This is no cultural appropriation. This is shamanism from a shaman's perspective. Now, here's something interesting. A lot of the stuff in here relates to different religions all over the world. This one, called Keeping the Faith Without a Religion, is all about practicing spirituality without the idea of, and this is going to sound insane, without the idea of faith. Wait, how can you be spiritual without faith? Maybe saying it does it without faith is not quite right. It does it without dogma, without... I'm losing my ability to describe things. It's late. If you're interested, come take a peek at it. We'll just leave it there, make life even easier. Oh, I'm too tired for my own good. It is also just past midnight, mind you. Here we have, now, magic comes from a lot of sources. A lot of high magic was heavily influenced by Egyptian practice, or assumed Egyptian practice. The sacred magic of ancient Egypt is going to go further into that, looking into the sacred ritual and magic of the time period and place of the world. Now, along with my books come a few different tarot cards. In this case, it's the Initiatory Golden Dawn Tarot. With the beautiful rosy cross on the back. Now, there are some people who are Buddhist. Speaking of world religions, we have the Dhammapada. Now, if I recall, actually, I got a few different kind of looks at some Eastern religious texts. So that's just going to be one. Ooh, this is really nice in hardcover. Crystal Muse, everyday rituals to tune into the real you. This is all about finding inspirations in the stones. A lot of times we gather crystals and stones because we want to bring their energy into our lives, or because we want to use them in magic. But this is looking for ways to bring them even deeper into yourself and bring them deeper into your spiritual practice, for more than just as an energy source of a specific flavor or color of energy, as it were. Speaking now, going back to the astrology thing, practical astrology for witches and pagans. It's taking a look at astrology through kind of through the lens of a pagan perspective on the world and theology. True Magic, a beginner's guide. This is, I have to admit, kind of become a little bit of a classic. You'll find that I massively adore Amber Kay. I really, really like her as an author. She communicates usually with a lot of humor, and she does a very good job of not only conveying scholarship, but also making things easy to read, making things easy to grasp, to understand, and being pretty darn comprehensive. Those of you who have been in the Sky River Temple will know that I have banged on one of her books like a drum, Covencraft by Amber Kay, which is a book I love, and as soon as I'm able to get into store, I will. It is phenomenal for any group of practicing members of the craft, ranging from those who want to start a temple and have regular worship and dedicants and stuff like that, to the solitary, well, not the solitary, but like to a small, coven. That's her other book. This book, though, I can't wait to sink my teeth into. I adore Amber Kay, and I look very much forward to the information she wants to share. There's a few books people are going to have to race me. Luckily, in your advantage, I'm not allowed to pay myself in product. I have to pay myself in money, and then I can buy the product. Loophole. Now here's another book on Santeria, the religion. Now, it bears mentioning that there has been quite a few attempts to subvert Santeria, so it's nice to see it getting more of a voice out there. Now, the Defense Against the Dark Arts section. This is another one that's going in there. Protection and Reversal Magic, a Witch's Defense Manual. Very self-explanatory in its title. Written by Jason Miller, who's somebody who I don't actually have any other books from, but again, reviews were phenomenal. Now, speaking of the Black and Defense Against the Dark Arts section, the Black section of books also has what some may call shadow magic. Kind of the more tapping into the dark aspects of deity and of magic. Some people are very frightened of that. When I say dark, I don't mean evil. I mean dark. The same way that the moon becomes a new moon, the same way that the weather is not always delightful. This is called Nocturnal Witchcraft, written by Konstantinos. Magic After Dark. Konstantinos is maybe a bit too heavy for some people. Some people don't like his writing. He tends to address a lot of the terribly spoopy supernatural stuff. And yes, I said spoopy, not spooky. Spoopy. S-P-O-O-P-Y. Now, in that same section, there's Konstantinos, Nocturnicon, culling dark forces and powers. Your guide to the dark sides. Actually, I'll read you just a sentence. This probably puts the book well. Darkness, demons, drugs, death, life, love, sex, magic. Nocturnicon is your ultimate guide to the darker side of the magical universe. Universe. If you'd like to know more, or if the book seems like it's for you, come check it out. If you're offended by the book, please keep in mind, it is not my place to judge a person's path. More importantly, any good library, it was said, I think it was by Voltaire, any good library has something to offend everyone. So, if you find that we carry those offensive, that's okay. There are people who will find perhaps a book that you're interested in offensive. I suppose live and let live. If it's not your style of magic, luckily you aren't forced to buy any of the books in our store. On to a completely different side of the magical spectrum, we have Reiki Shamanism. Reiki Shamanism. Reiki Shamanism. It's essentially, unsurprisingly to the title, combining methods of Reiki with shamanic healing practice as well. I look forward to seeing the commonalities and how they're bridged. Joseph Campbell, I was looking forward to this. The Power of Myth. while we're on the power of things, the power of the witch. Now, some of you may have heard of Laurie Cabot before. She actually started the Cabot tradition of witchcraft. She runs a store in Salem, and she is the official witch of Salem. Oh my. Still though, her books and her magical learning is good. She's got quite a bit of information, and she has been running an occult bookstore for longer than I certainly have. Longer than I've been able to call myself an adult, actually. So, this is an older book, if I recall. Let's see, when was it? I think she penned it in the 80s. Yeah, 1989. Ooh, I get 10 points for remembering it was the 80s. The Once Unknown Familiar by Timothy Roderick. It's talking about shamanic paths to unleash your animal powers. It's not just about, go tiger, go! No. It's all about connecting to your familiar, and the same way that we give gifts to our familiar, they can give gifts to us as well. So that's what this is all about. Now here's something different. This is a divination technique. This isn't a book so much on divination. It is a form of divination itself. It's called the Oracle Book. Essentially, if I recall, you open it up to random pages, and it gives you a little bit of information. So very neat. I thought it was just a neat form of divination. Actually, for those of you who this last summer joined me at the Museum of Antiquities at the University of Saskatchewan, you will be familiar. I can't remember what the name of the book was, but they had something very, very similar. I think it was from just around the Renaissance. They had examples of something similar, a book where you opened the pages. So interesting. Not a new thing, but nice to see a new version of. Planetary spells and rituals. This is taking your magic and adding a lot more of the stars, which normally is considered to be kind of the province of high magic. Written by Raven Digitalis, which, yes, I admit it sounds like a disease of some kind, but it's not. It's a person, and they're kind of cool. Now, with astrology, we all find ways of, well, rather not ways. With astrology books, most books are dealing just with doing a person's natal chart, or maybe finding out what's going on now. This book is all about, as its title says, predicting events with astrology. Predictive and derivative astrology is something very rarely covered. Some of you may wonder, well, how is it that the astrologist figures out my horoscope for the newspaper or whatever? This is looking into methods of that. Now, speaking of, previously speaking about kind of dark craft and dark gods and goddesses, not all of them are super, super bright and light and lovely. Some of them have lessons. For example, like Set, god of destruction and war. This, however, is looking at the dark goddess. This is all about dark goddess craft. There's another book very, very similar. If I recall, it is called Celtic Lore and Magic of the Dark Goddess. It's specifically looking at the Morgan. This is very, very similar, but looking at the goddess archetype on a broader spectrum. And I got to move this before they all fall and shatter my beloved little teacup, because that'll make me really sad. Because then what will I drink tea out of? My shoes. I will drink tea out of my shoes. Another one of those Bibles, the Reiki Bible. Again, good basic information presented in a very, very easy to digest and visually pleasing manner. Lots of pictures. Hard to get bored. Actually, I had an amazing assistant come over and help me take some of these books, and I'm going to take them up on it. Thank you very much, good sir. I appreciate your face. Next, I've been trying to expand our section on crystals and gemology and crystal magic, and this one is named just that, Crystal Magic. We have a few others of her books. We have Bird Magic and Star Magic, which are some of her other ones. She writes another one, I think it's Sea Magic. Yes, Sea Magic, I think. But this is all about mineral wisdom for Wiccans and Pagans. The Smudging and Blessing Book, Inspirational Rituals to Cleanse and Heal. Now earlier on I I spoke a little bit about carrying a book called The Occult Grace, and I said there was going to be one other book that some people may be like, all about. And they're welcome to freak the heck out. A thing to keep in mind is that when Christianity was developing, it was living side by side with pagan religions. And the same way that some Christians picked up some kind of pagan traditions, there were people who blended them. It's not a new thing, and though some people have a lot of different opinions on it, again, it's not my place to judge somebody else's path. If it works for them and makes their soul sing, I'm good. I'm good. This I have for people who are trying to bridge the two, and I know that we have more than one customer who is looking to do that. Well, I ordered this book for you. Now for something completely different. Ooh, this is nice. Arthurian Magic, a practical guide to the wisdom of Camelot. Interesting. I would love to see more of this. But I'm going to take forever if I do. And it's getting really late, so I've got to keep moving here. I apologize if I'm not giving all these books the same kind of treatment. I do apologize. Now, on a similar size, we have another part of that magical series created by Christopher Pensack. This is the Temple of High Witchcraft. Now, there are actually 2 Temples of High Witchcraft, if I recall, in his series. There's a part 1 and a part 2. I want to say this is part 2. I believe this is part 2, because part 1 is much more yellow. Anyway, Shoppe. Or maybe I'm remembering wrong. Not having the books in front of me is making life difficult. Boo-earns. Oh well, suffice it to say, another part of that series, all the books are the exact same size, and they look amazing when they're all sitting beside each other. And it's pretty good and comprehensive. Modern Wicca. Now, this not only looks at, I guess, the craft, it's looking more also at the history. So we're looking at the NeoPagan and Wiccan kind of, I hate to call it a resurgence, because technically Wicca in its modern form did not exist earlier. Maybe it's a good way of saying, since the coming out of the broom closet, since witches started going public and started to really kind of gather and share information publicly and refuse to be persecuted. And so it's going to look at people like Aleister Crowley, and I know some people are like, he's not Wiccan, what are you talking about, Ryan? Well, no, he wasn't Wiccan, but he did add quite a bit to the magical literature. And his additions have swept into Wicca over the years. We're also going to be looking probably at people like Alexander's. For those of you who are like, who the heck is Alexander's? If you've heard of Alexandrian Wicca, you actually have come in contact with his creation. There's a lot of jokes amongst the Wiccan community and the various different traditions on the similarities between Alexandrian and Gardnerian, but they do have very distinctive differences as well, all humor aside. But this is looking at the history of witchcraft as a modern movement. Now again, back to the ceremonial magic, we have another one of Israel Regardie's editions. It's called The Middle Pillar, the balance between mind and magic. For those of you who are familiar with high magical practice, the middle pillar ritual is a method of connecting to the divine and to the creation around you. I look forward to checking this out and reading it. Who is that by? Urban Shaman. This is good for people who have kind of a shamanic spirituality to them, but are looking for ways to kind of apply it into their everyday life. A day-to-day it can be really, really mundane, and it's very easy to forget a person's spiritual practice. So that's a great way to bring it into the everyday. Meditation as medicine. Remember I talked about your body having all sorts of methods of defense. Sometimes, though, they're inhibited, what have you. Where by using the mind, we can help assist the body. And that's what this is all about. Now, these books are kind of small in size, but they are very exciting. The Truth About Witchcraft Today, if I recall, it's written by Scott Cunningham. Yeah, Scott Cunningham. This book, when I was young, was kind of the book to give to your parents when they had no idea what the heck Wicca was and why you were becoming a witch and what are you doing? Oh my gosh, you're worshiping the devil. It was originally published in 1988. But if you're having family members who are having difficulty, or If you have a family member who has said, I'm Wiccan, and you're like, what the heck does that mean? This is a good pocketbook to help you out. Give you an idea, at the very least a glance. The Witch's Cauldron, the craft, lore, and magic of ritual vessels. Now this is specifically, unlike other ones where it's like Cauldron Born, where you're looking at like Welsh mythology, this is all about cauldrons and vessels and magic relating around them, as well as mythology surrounding them. So, very cool. Now, here's a different kind of shamanism that a lot of people are not really familiar with. In Celtic traditions, shamans were quite often called sin eaters. This is the Sin Eater's Last Confessions. It's a book written from the perspective of a sin eater, and it's about Celtic shamanism. Cool. Now here's one I got. It's just a little book. It's very much a handbook, but and it's not just Australian tea tree oil. This is all about tea tree oil. Period. It's a first aid handbook relating to tea tree oil. Now I'm used to tea tree oil being used as kind of an antiseptic, so that's where I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm done there. But apparently, it has a heck of a lot more use for adults, children, animals, camping in the household, workplaces, travel, beauty care, and aromatherapy. I look forward to taking a look in here, and I may accidentally write down a recipe or two. Now, there's this one author who does a great job of explaining Tao and Taoism. This is What is Zen by the same author. They are not terribly thick or thoroughly comprehensive books, but they are an excellent introduction to. Now, very last in this box is another set of tarot cards. Now, it's one that the imagery doesn't speak to me, but it's got very powerful imagery. And once in a while, when I'm looking at things online and I'm hunting through catalogs and what have you, some things will pop out and jump at me, and I know instantly that they're not for me, but I definitely need to bring them in for someone else. This is one of those examples. Again, the imagery is not really my style. It doesn't speak to me so strongly. But somebody watching this video will likely see that and go, oh, wow. I invite you to come take a better look at it. One of my friends once told me that I own a lot of neat stuff in this store. And I said, I don't own it. It's just waiting for its owner. If you're watching, I hope it moves you. In the meantime, that's it for this box. I'm going to go dig up another box, and I will be right back.